Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. And yes, I am your host, Edgar De Jesus, still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, baby, along with none other than Mr. JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous, I don't know how to whistle, Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today we're talking about the 5 habits of highly successful pool pros, habits that drive growth, create consistency, and build long-term success. Before we jump into the podcast, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, and Pool Brain. We want to thank them for their continued support. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on?
None other than John Flawless. It's like you've graduated into this like next step.
Well, I'm trying to see, John, what do you have to say? I'm trying to see something. I'm trying to see something here. I did something and I'm trying to see.
Well, no, this is what I was giving you kudos a couple of weeks ago, I think, of how you've nailed the intro. And finally, after like 5 years, you have it somewhat memorized. And then today you kind of go off the handle.
I botched it today.
You botched it bad.
So
well, not bad, but you,
so here's the thing.
It was Flair.
No,
Flair.
Here's the thing. So here's the thing that you guys haven't noticed. I changed the order.
You added a little bit of flavor to it.
I changed the order of the intro too. You guys didn't catch that, did you? Oh, 5 years into it, and I switched it over. Hey, every time we do the intro, I'm like, welcome to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I'm your host, Edgar De Jesus, right? I'm the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today I went, welcome everyone to the Pool Nation Live podcast, where it's all pool talk. We ain't talking about netting and jetting. I changed the order to see if you guys
can't even remember what you said.
So I just grabbed those two and I switched them to see if I was thinking that Zach was going to be like, oh, there's something going on here. And I thought, weird. John, you were going to call me out on it and be like, dude, what, you got it backwards?
No, I'm zoning out. I'm sorry.
So the next step is now it's none other than, and then the next step will be the prestigious.
The prestigious. So the prestigious Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas. Okay, I'll do that next week.
Wow, dude, full of yourself this morning.
I was saying the prestigious. Wow, dude. JJ Flawless.
Yeah, I know.
The prestigious
he's on fire today, right, John?
Yeah, dude,
he's like, you know, hey, along with none other than you got to throw the prestigious Zach the Pool
JJ Flawless.
Oh man, we got to throw that out awesome. There. So, anyways,
laugh. Right.
I decided to mess with you guys yesterday to see if you guys would kind of call me out, because the beauty of having friends is they're just going to call you out whenever you do something wrong, right? Like there's the bashing coming in, and if
you didn't fumble through it, I would have caught it, but I was too focused on you fumbling.
No, if I wouldn't have fumbled through it, you wouldn't have caught it.
No, I would have.
Like this made you think. This made you go, oh, there's something wrong here. What's going on?
It's true. Yeah.
So, hey, Mr. Michael Kraus, good morning. Big shout out to you out there. So anyways, Zacharias, how you been, man?
I'm good. A little sleep deprived lately, but we're rocking and rolling as usual. Things are going good. It's starting to warm up here. I'm still wearing my jeans, but every day I'm like, I'm going to have to retire these things soon and
Move over to shorts.
move over to some shorts. Yeah. So heating up. We finally got out of, well, sorry to bring it up, but we were having a lot of winds and we finally got out of it. Looks like John's still in it, but we're finding it seems like the weather has been stable like the last week or two, which has been awesome for everyone at work. They've been getting back at a good time, but other than that, nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Hey, big shout out to Ashley out there. Good morning, Ashley. Afternoon for you. Still morning for us for a little bit. Big shout out there. And what about you, John? How you doing? I do this, Zach. This could go either one of two ways. Either he drops the mic and walks out, or he really kind of engages in the podcast today.
He's contemplating.
He's really thinking right now.
I am definitely having a hell of a week.
A hell of a week. A hell of a 2 weeks.
Yeah, hell of a 2 weeks.
Your last 2 weeks have been brutal.
Yeah, it has been brutal, and I kind of get tired of hearing me talk about it, but. It is. Well, you're asking me how I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing, right? This is like hell week for us right now. Not only do we have, we got Coachella Fest last weekend, which was an absolute nightmare. So bad that the man, the guy in charge or whatever of Golden Voice who puts it on, they set up like an emergency town hall meeting in
Did they really?
Yeah, with the city council and the mayor, and they televised it where he had to go up and apologize to the city on the mess they made out here, because it was bizarre. I remember the Coachella Fest.
Made a mess?
That Golden Voice, the people that put on Coachella Fest, right? The logistical side of it and the traffic and how they treated the people coming and them being so unorganized and just, I'll get into a little bit of details, but for many, many, many years, every time people came for Coachella, it was just a disaster. And then all of a sudden, sometime about 5 years ago, things got very smooth. Mm-hmm. And, they finally figured it out after like 10 years, how to run it and how to do it properly. And, they were busing a lot of people in instead of having cars, and they had programs set up and they were on schedules and they stuck to it, and they had enough people and, all them, and everything was just, and it ran very smooth. And it was almost as if you really didn't know they were in town, it was a busy time, but they brought them in the middle of the night, where people would come, mm-hmm. and they'd start letting them in, and it wouldn't really disrupt daily life as much because it used to always be a shit show. And this year, I remember clearly, and I was like, what the hell? Driving to an appointment, we have an appointment that we have to go to, and I think it was like at 12 o'clock or something like that, and sure as hell there's like maybe like a 4 square mile area of the polo grounds where Coachella Fest is held. Mm-hmm. And that area is usually kind of, when people are coming and people are going to the festival, at the start and at the end, it becomes a little hectic there because of traffic. There's like 500,000 people that come into our little town, just to give you an idea, the city of La Quinta has like, I think 40,000 people or 50,000 people total. So to bring in 500,000 people into our little area is a lot of traffic. But anyways, I'm driving and all of a sudden you hear it.
Huh? I can hear the sound of a coffee maker, baby.
Yeah, you can hear the coffee maker rinsing, right? It's like for that coffee maker.
There's a
coffee,
sound.
Right?
There's a sound that I recognize, and that's
right?
it.
It's calling you. Not many people would understand what that sound is, but you are one of the few. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden, I go around the bend, and it's like stopped. Like, I'm like, and it's a one-way street, right? And one lane and no choice. And I was literally stuck in like a little roundabout area just to drive less than a quarter mile. It took me like an hour. So I was like, what the hell is going on? And that whole weekend, it was just, it was a mess. So, but anyways, it was so bad that people were waiting in their cars to go to Coachella for like 13 hours.
Wow.
And the stretch from the freeway to where it's at is maybe like
13 hours?
13 hours, like 4 miles, a stretch from the freeway where you get off on the 10 and then you come down on Jefferson and you go to the Polo Grounds, which is right down that area. It was like, I don't know, it's like a 4 mile drive. And everything was just backed all the way out. And people were waiting in their cars for over 13 hours. And people were running out of gas. Imagine being stuck in a line and then now cars are running out of gas. People were walking, people were getting out of their cars and taking shits in the bushes, in the street. You know what I mean? Because they have nowhere to go. And then they're calling cops, and people are getting arrested for it. And it just turned into a nightmare,
chaotic,
right? It was just chaotic. And so, but it was and it was because apparently they were supposed to let people in at like, midnight the night before, but they hired this new security, or they went with the new staff. And they didn't know what they were doing or whatever. And I guess what was working great before, they wanted to make better, I guess, and they ended up destroying it. But it got so bad that they did an emergency meeting, and the guy from Golden Voice was there and was talking and had apologized for, tried to explain what they were doing and why it happened and how it's not going to happen again, this weekend. But it was just pandemonium. So we're dealing with that, right? Coachella Fest, with all the influx of people that come in. And then all the traffic that is literally the weeks, that weekend when we were trying to get places on Friday, especially because that's where people were coming. It was taking forever to get to pools. So we were backed up from that. We've been hit with wind and dirt storms.
Dude, those
it's just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, those winds have been gnarly. It's not like breezy or 15 mile an hour wind. Ridiculous. Like those are strong.
Yeah, this is strong enough winds where we're usually 100 plus degrees right now, where the temp is like low 70s, because that wind is coming from wherever.
From everywhere. Sounds complete. And man, there's nothing worse and scarier than you being the person that's putting on this event and creating that chaos, right?
Yeah, but it is.
It's I mean, and especially for people to be getting arrested because and it's like, what do you do? Like 13 hours stuck in traffic. Like, what do you do?
What do you do?
Like, what do you do? Where do you go? What do you and it's like.
They had no restroom set up, and even inside was all. I guess when people got there, people were waiting for like 4 hours or 3 hours to take showers. And
I did see those. I did see those videos that people were waiting like 3 hours just to take a shower in there. And stuff like that.
I don't know. I never go to those. I guess I'm too old. I'm too old for that stuff. I guess I have no desire whatsoever to go to Coachella Fest. I don't think I ever will. But so we're dealing with that. Last weekend was hectic, and then of course getting everything cleaned up after the mess. And then when people come in for Coachella Fest, every single we do a lot of Airbnbs. You guys know that.
So and what happens? They go out, they party, they then all come and they all just jump straight in the pool and drink and hang in the pool. And they've all
been there at the festival
all day,
throwing up, sweating, you know what I mean, drinking, whatever in the hell they're doing, right? And they just come jump into the pool and it just turns into a nightmare. So every Airbnb is packed and you got 50 people in a 10,000 gallon pool. All my cleaners are like thrown up on the deck, you know what I mean? And I was like,
all you hear is
dude.
You go there and all you hear, you're like,
pool's not working.
Noise?
Dumb shit. Of course it's not working. Food and trash and people are messy and then we had to deal with that. And then of course we got through it. And then here we are, weekend number 2 for Coachella Fest. And we got fingers crossed that it's going to go okay. But then we get hit with this.
You guys have Coachella Fest, but after Coachella Fest
is Stagecoach.
Which to me, for many years, I thought the Coachella and the Stagecoach were the same thing. Just people called it different thing. They're two separate events.
Yeah.
And they're back to back.
Yeah, so we have one weekend is Coachella Fest, right? Which was last weekend, and then the
But
next
what kind of
weekend is
music do they play at
Fest.
Coachella Fest?
Everything from like Lady Gaga to like Green Day to a bunch of, all the headline, all the main
headliners,
headliners, right? But it's apparently, I just learned this for the first time. I thought it was two separate Coachella Fests with different artists, but it's the same lineup both weekends. So they have a weekend one and then they have a weekend two because they get sold out and there's so many people that want to go. So they just did another weekend many years ago. So it's like a copy and paste concert for 2 weekends. And then the weekend after Coachella Fest is Stagecoach, which is more geared towards
country
music.
right?
Yeah. And then now apparently they're saying that they're getting the same draw and demand for Stagecoach that next year or the coming years they're going to do 2 weekends of Stagecoach. So it's going to be 1 month of pure hell. You know what I mean? For us.
Now, is there anything during the week or is it just on the weekends?
Just on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, it all it starts Thursday when people start coming down, and then Sunday when they leave, or Monday, I don't know. I think they leave Sunday. Yeah. No, Monday. Who knows? It's all a blur to me. Like I said, I don't go to it, have no interest for it.
Yeah. But you
can just watch it all on YouTube, I guess, if you want.
You get bombarded with all the service calls and this isn't working and that's not working. And so it becomes like total nonstop.
I've already had like 3 messages since we started the podcast right now. And it's hell week for us, but I mean, this is what we're built for and this is what we do. And then on top of that, you got all the Airbnb, you got the winds, the weather, like we said, I got pumps going out. We got filters blowing up. We got, you mix all that into it and then here you go, So
crazy.
That was like probably the longest good morning to me.
No, but it's funny. It was a long good morning, but it's and I think a lot of times, especially when you talk about like Airbnb, John, and I did a lot of stuff like right across the street from Disneyland, where what I used to get is it was walking distance. So people would come home, right? Like go for like 4 hours early in the morning, then they come back, and then you show up in the middle of the day and there's 16 people swimming in the pool, and then they're done and they get up and they go back to Disneyland. And then they're there for another 3 or 4 hours, and then they all kind of come back into the pool, and then at night into the spa. And it's like the pools just take a complete beating, and then like all the phone calls, But
it's so bad that usually it'd be like, you know what, I got a lot of calls I got to do today, and I'm gonna have to pass on the podcast or skip on the podcast. I was just like, I'm looking forward to. You have another hour
for an hour
because it doesn't matter.
Here's the problem.
It doesn't matter. It's so much to do. It's just not going to happen.
John is going, I want to be on the podcast so I could forget about all these pools and all these Airbnbs. In the first 20 minutes, we're talking about his problem with the Airbnbs.
I just want to talk to my peeps,
So everybody in here, just kind of keep throwing comments to John about his, Coachella Fest he's got it going on, so he remembers. Hey, let me come back here really quick. So Michael, big shout out. Ashley, good morning. Big shout out to you. Mr. Jay Brakefield, what's going on, brother? Tule, hey, good afternoon. Good Friday, everybody. Yes, it is Good Friday, so big shout out to everybody. Stephanie Gardner, good morning. Hope you are doing good out there. David, Cap City Pools, what's going on? Mama, good morning. Big shout out. Ashley, all good here, growing and scaling, looking to onboard Pool Brain next month. She's still going back and forth between them and their current, which is Skimmer, but it looks like they're moving over. So they're kind of going through that same thing you're going through, Zach, and they're going through all that onboarding and all that, fun stuff out there. So big shout out to you out there, Ashley. And Mr. Howard Pringle, finally, all these years, he says, hi, Zach. What the heck? No, I'm just kidding. Did you see John's face? He was going like this. All of a sudden, he paused, like, what? I'm kidding, John. Howard ain't. Howard,
you had
Howard
me for a minute.
Howard is loyal to you. Like no other. In 5 years,
awesome, dude. I miss Howard.
In 5 years, he's never said anything other than starting with "Hi, John."
I'm trying to figure out, Howard. I need you to pick up that phone one day this week and give me a buzz so we can catch up, my friend.
Absolutely. Hey, look, David says, is ignoring your problems one of the habits of highly successful pool pros? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. You just got to ignore those problems sometimes. And that's
Wow,
kind of what John
you
is
called out
doing.
perfectly. Look, I might be.
Oh, that was awesome, David. So anyways, hey guys, let's talk about a couple things. Believe it or not, and we were talking about this, which is completely crazy. The nominations for the Pool Nation Awards are about 6 weeks away. 8 weeks away. So we are opening June 18th, which means, John, Zach, that before that, we have to have the conversation about the categories on our Instagram Live. So that's a couple weeks away. We open nominations for the Pool Nation Awards June 18th this year, which is a whole month before we normally do. So I think, John, we should do the Instagram Live, maybe April 30th. The next Instagram Live is going to be the qualifiers. So we'll kind of go through the list of all the people that have qualified for Vegas. I think the week after that, we do the one with the categories. So it kind of gives us some time to kind of go through the categories and all that. So let's see here. Ashley is saying, yes, it is, David. That is one of the habits of highly successful people, is just to ignore the problems. And then Tule is asking, how does that work? Are you asking about the nominations? So what'll happen is we'll have the conversation with the categories April 30th on the Instagram Live, like we do every year. We'll kind of come up with the categories. And then what will happen is we will announce the opening of the nominations on June 18th, which is on our Instagram Live. And then what will happen is people will have, this year we kind of have to shorten it a little bit, but normally we do 6 weeks of voting. Gentlemen, this year we're going to have to do like 4. So 4 or 5 weeks at the most, just because the show is a whole month earlier. And then from there, the nomination night is going to be Wednesday, August 20th. So we need some time between the nominations to be able to go through all the nominations and all that, get them ready. We'll do the nomination on the 20th of August on our Instagram Live. And then right after that, the 21st and the 22nd is the Women's Summit over at Heritage headquarters. And I am looking forward to that. Gentlemen, we have, man, some impressive presenters and keynote speakers and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to check it out, go to the Pool Nation website. You can check it out. But we are going to do a deep dive into that one soon with everybody that's going to be coming out and presenting. So, so we'll do that. And then we are going to spill some tea on May 2nd. Zach and John, we're gonna finally spill our tea on what we've been working on. So I'm excited about that one.
We got a lot going on.
We do.
We do.
We do. And I had conversations yesterday with the PSP Expo for the Pool Nation Conference for the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge, which John, Zach, and I were talking about. We're thinking, so we were originally thinking that the competition was going to be one day. And yesterday we're all making phone calls and talking back and forth, trying to figure out how we're going to be able to get this in. But we're going to have to do 2 days, because even if we get 40 or 50 people, right, which would be not a lot of people, and you would think would not be a lot of people, but if you have 20 minutes per person to be able to kind of qualify and go to the semifinals, then we have to do the semifinals. And then from the semifinals, we have to do the finals. So I think this is a moving target. And what's going to happen is we are going to have to do Wednesday for the qualifiers, all day in the booth. And then Thursday is the Pool Nation Award. So we kind of can't do it on the Thursday. But then on the Friday, we're going to have to do the finals on that one.
Yeah, while we're doing our mid-conference.
Mid-conference, right. Now the show closes at 2 o'clock that day. So what we could do is take a break on that Friday for like 2 hours in the middle, right? So everybody can kind of go see that. We could kind of do the final there and then go back to our Pool Nation conference. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm thinking that's the only way it's going to work.
That's the only way it's going to work, right? Yeah. So it's a moving target for everybody that's out there. Kind of, it's looking like we're going to head in that direction, but we'll talk about it as we get close there. Stephanie is, I'm very excited about the summit, always educational and helps my business and myself grow and thrive. Absolutely. There's a lot of them that I'm going to sit through this year. But we'll talk about that on the 30th.
Dude, that is, it's so true too. There's nothing more inspiring. We do a lot of events and I go to a lot of events. But the Women's Summit, the energy in that room from the women it's very impressive. And they come ready to learn, and they are like all business when they're there. And it's very fun to watch and just see the friendships that are made, and the teamwork, where there are no exceptions when it comes down to helping one another. I don't know. It's just like a quality or a trait that women, tend to have more than men. Men are always more of I can do this on my own, and a little bit of an ego gets in the way or whatever it may be. But, to see the women in our industry, especially how it's grown over the years. And when they go there, it's just like action packed. And then it's funny, the minute we're not even, we're like a day into it, right? Or halfway into it. And we're already talking, and, they're already asking, when is the next one? How can we sign up? How can we get ready to rock and roll? I want to start planning for it. And it's funny because we always joke about pool guys, right? And how we procrastinate, and, and it's just like everything's last minute with us. And we do this, do that, but yet the women are so detailed and organized and ready to rock and roll. It's a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah, and I talk about it all the time. I love with the Women's Summit that there's a lot of networking that goes on at that event, and we talk about it all the time. It's like, and we put pressure on people. You got to get out. You got to network. And that's one of the things that just happens organically at that event that I love about the event. And then the other thing that I talk about it all the time with the women's event, like women say that they're going to go, they go, like, you're done. You don't have to, like, they're going, right. And I give a hard time to a lot of the pool pros that will call me and they'll be like, oh, I was going to make it, but now I can't make it because of this or because of that. And I'm like, and the Women's Summit, it's like, they say we're in, they're all in. So
100%, dude. 100%.
Yeah. So, hey, big shout out to Rich out there. He's going on. What's going on, men and women out there? Big shout out to you, Rich. So, gentlemen, I want to talk today about something, and some of the things that we've been doing, that we've been doing lately is really kind of going through and looking at kind of a lot of the trends that we see within the industry, within the companies that we get to talk to, which is kind of exciting because we kind of get to see every range, right? And everybody from the different phases, from 40 pools to 13,000 pools. And, we've been sitting down kind of, what are some of the common traits of the pool companies that we see that are successful in the pool industry? And so Zach, John, and I, kind of sat down and kind of went back and forth on a whole bunch, and we probably could have come up with 20, but we had to narrow it down to about 5. And so what we wanted to do today is we wanted to talk about, maybe what are the top 5 habits that we've seen for those successful pool pros, those successful, companies. And when we talk about being successful, it doesn't have to be that in order to be successful, you have to have 5,000 pools, right? There's pool companies with 300 pools that we know that are very successful, that they're very well-oiled machines, that they're like, hey, 300 is our sweet spot. We do really well. We don't want to, we don't want to do more than that, right? And we don't want to continue to expand to 8,000 pools. But we looked at all those different companies and we talked to a lot of those pool pros to kind of try to figure out what were some of those common things. And so I said that we were going to talk about 5, but we realistically know that we'll probably get through like 2 today, but we'll continue to do the podcast.
If we can get through 2, I will be thoroughly impressed.
Look how Zach is laughing. Because we had this conversation that we can go into a rabbit hole on each one of them, right? So let me do this. Let's kind of, what we'll do is we'll talk about what the 5 are, right? And then what we'll do is we'll kind of start to go through them one by one, and we'll see how many we can get through. And Michael Kraus is already saying on here a driven mindset, and that's kind of one of them, right? But let's talk about them. So habit number 1 that we saw is that those successful people, they knew their numbers. Number 2 is that they invested in education, and not just for them, but education for their company, their employees, for every phase of their employees, and for the different roles and different things. The third habit that we saw was that they built systems, right? Not just skills, but they really built systems in place to make sure that their, company ran as smooth as possible. Number 4 was that they focused on relationships, and they focused on relationships at all different levels throughout their journeys, and what that looks like at different levels of business. And the fifth one was kind of exactly what Michael is saying, a driven mindset, and that is that they lead themselves first, right? You guys agree with those? And by the way,
I have an idea, and it just came to my head, and before I forget about it, write this down, Edgar.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Okay, here we go. I'm ready. Go.
So I love it. The 5 habits, right, of a successful business. I think after we get done with this series, we're going to do the 5 bad habits.
Oh, I like it.
All right. So we're gonna have a contrasting series, which is going to cover bad habits that we need to get rid of or get away from.
So what do we call it? The 5
pitfalls, 5, or I don't know, or 5 bad habits, or habits you need to break, or intervention.
The 5 bad habits pool pros need to break.
Yeah. Yes.
Unless anybody on here gives us,
we'll come up with a catchy little series for it. But I think this is cool. We should definitely do that.
And by the way, you guys should hear our conversations. Like, I wish people could sit down and listen to us come up with the list and kind of go in circles for 20 days. I'm
just glad you write stuff down. And the same thing with Janie too, because I can't tell you how many times people say, "John, remember when you said that?" I go, "No." Or you had to say that. Really? Did I say that? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. The most important thing that makes a company strong and successful is fuerza de trabajo. How would I translate that? Kind of hardworking from your employees. Yes. Your employees have to be hardworking, but there's a skill set to get there. Michael Kraus is saying intervention, 5 pool pros bad habits. I kind of like that intervention thing.
Run with that.
Oh, I'm going to have to write that down. So if everybody that's listening to the podcast, you hear the clicking, is because I'm jotting out some ideas over here. So
in your Manila notes.
Yes.
Manila notes. Janie using that too.
I got her using it. You should see my Manila note. By the way, if I get hit by a train tomorrow, which I've talked about this, I'm like, don't worry getting into my email. Don't worry about getting into any. Yeah. Just get into my Manila note, and it's all there.
Yeah.
So anyways, Michael is saying everyone needs an intervention here and there. Yes, absolutely. So anyway, so now would you guys agree on the order of these? So they know their numbers, they invest in education, they build systems, not just skills, they focus on relationships, and number 5, they lead themselves first.
Well, I mean, I don't think order is necessarily as important, right? As, you need them really all. It's not like it's an all or nothing thing. You can't really be. And I want to clarify.
I'm a little biased, but.
Yeah, well, look, I want to clarify. This isn't necessarily that you have to have these things down, or you have to be a pro at all this in order to be
these are the things that we've seen.
You know what I mean? But we're talking about the difference between surviving and thriving, right? Or there's an untapped potential that I think every business has, that no matter how well you're doing, believe it or not, you can do better, right? And you can make more, and you can be more efficient, you can be more profitable. And just because you're successful and you're leading a good life financially, and you don't need or want, and things are running pretty smooth or whatever, what your understanding of successful is, or what you think your potential is, I think what we're getting at is that, that there's a lot more that you can get from your business. Does that make sense? And
yeah. And I think a lot of it too, like we talk about, is a lot of times people find these things on their own, but it's a long journey with a lot of roadblocks and hiccups and things, falling down and getting back up. But it's kind of highlighting these things that so that people can avoid a lot of that and speed up the process in their own journey. But I think, there is a handful of things that we could talk about, but I think these 5 things really encompass like the core fundamental things that these people have in common, that have kind of cracked the code or on their way to cracking the code to having a successful business. And like you said, John, it's like success is defined in so many different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have 10,000 pools. You could have 100 pools and be living your best life if you have all these things.
Yeah. And
oh, look at this title.
What?
Oh, that's it.
The Filthy 5. I love it.
Oh, that's a good one, Eric. That's the one we're going with. Oh yeah. I'm typing that one.
Yeah. No, let's roll with that. I think that's perfect.
That's the one. That's the one, Eric.
And Zach, just to tag on to what you're saying, it is a lot of this stuff we learn from experience. And it's funny that we're talking about this, because I was having a conversation with the kids yesterday, and Mama was there, and we're in the kitchen where we usually are, because that's where our family's usually at, because we love to eat and cook dinner and hang out and chat about life and stuff like that. And we were talking about experience and how important it is. You hear my phone going off?
We could hear Mama.
What is she saying?
I don't know. She's just saying something in the back.
Yeah,
she's
singing. She's singing in the shower right now. But I was talking about experience, and I was telling her, hey, look, experience is a son of a gun, right? It's life's hardest teacher. And they're like, huh? And I go, well, they give you, it's the one time where you get tested first before you learn the lesson, and don't underestimate it. And as you grow in the pool industry, or as an entrepreneur, or anybody who owns a business, you've been told, or you've read about, or you've heard about, or you listen to podcasts where we talk about habits and stuff like this, and we try to forewarn and let people know. But sometimes the best teacher and the cruelest teacher, right, is experience, and we need to kind of go through it before we actually form these good habits, but
that's mainly the way that you learn them, right? Like you go in, you screw up these things, and then at that stage you're like, okay, I have to do something about XYZ, and then kind of
the stove.
Yes,
hot.
Yes, exactly. And it's
like
life
the pot
with
is hot. Don't grab it by the bottom. The pot is hot. Don't grab it by the bottom.
Right. Right. And then
it's like,
you did it.
Like, oh dang it! Don't grab it by the bottom. So.
But so to go back to your question, Edgar, about order. I think if the most blaring thing is habit 5, I think you can't really achieve any of that unless you're able to lead yourself or motivate yourself, right? So.
And it's funny, because I was gonna say to me, and that's just because the way that I tend to be is that you need to know your numbers first, right? But if you don't lead yourself first, you're not gonna get there.
You don't care, or you don't have
that makes total sense.
The motivation,
so that just shot mine.
Yeah.
So
for sure, it all starts with yourself.
Yeah. Hey guys, let's do this. Let's jump into number one. But let's do this. Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, we will do a deep dive into habit number one. We'll be right back.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I think we lost John. We lost him to a call, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
hey, there he is.
Oh,
Oh, we
yeah.
were kind of making fun of you, thinking that you were kind of dealing with a customer, and we did lost you for a little bit.
I did. I had a customer, right,
okay.
that I was talking to, and well, via text, and I'm looking out the window, and there's 4 ducks in the backyard getting in my pool. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm out there to
Get rid of them.
And I'm like, Zeus, go get him. And he's out there, and he goes directly to the left and misses them there. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? He can chase a lizard, but he ended up scaring them off and getting them out of there. But I'm like, oh, now I got to deal with ducks. But anyways,
I used to have a pool that I used to do up in kind of Santa Ana, Orange Mountain, up at the top, and they were this big, huge mansions, and so they had this. It was modern, right? And so they had just kind of a square, really long pool, right? And then the spa was all the way at the beginning. So when you walked into the backyard, all the left was all grass and just mountain out into the back. And then they just had this right there. But it was all kind of, and to the right, it was a mountain that kind of came down. And they used to get a lot of ducks. And I started talking to them, and I'm like, look, this is going to be an issue. Like, if we get all these ducks in here, like, I'm going to be fighting algae, and we're going to be having problems all the time. So I'm like, we need to figure something out. I'm like, get a whole bunch of floaties, throw them in the pool, let them move around, throw, all that kind of stuff to kind of keep them. I kid you not. I came back the next week, and guess what they did to try to scare the ducks off?
What?
They grab fishing line from the top of like where the mountain was, and they put little stakes all the way over to the other side of the pool, and they put fish line, and they grabbed a whole bunch of CDs, and they spaced them out.
The flashing.
But but I'm not talking like 3 rows. I'm talking there was a blanket all the way from the beginning all the way to the back of the pool, that there was no way I could vac, because if I got between the two, I'd have to go all the way over and then lean over to grab over to kind of come over and do that. And I'm like,
did it work though?
Outer space.
Yeah.
Did it work?
It worked, but it was a nightmare to clean the pool. But
you know what's crazy is the days of the alligator floats and the stainless steel
they don't work
balls.
Anymore. They don't work after a while.
Man, these ducks are brave, bro. This is, I guess, evolution at its worst. And they just they really don't give a crap, and I walk, like right now, these ducks too, I got maybe 4 feet away from them, and they're just looking at me, and then they turn around and they start waddling away, and I'm like, you little pricks, They're
like, you're gonna feed us or what?
Yeah, like what's going on?
What you got? What we got for dinner?
Who invited you out here? Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
crazy.
What it is.
So, hey, so let's talk about habit number 1. And now John made me think that we should have started all the way around with habit number 5 to number 1. But anyways, we'll talk about that maybe on the next one. But obviously, knowing what some of these successful companies do, and it doesn't matter the size of them, is, we've talked about it. We talk about it all the time, and really, it's that they know their numbers. They're not guessing what their profit is. They really know what it is that they are spending on chemicals and labor. And, they have a really good, focus on those things, and they're very in tune with those. And then, they even know, they kind of get to the point, and we all get to that point in the journey where we kind of start to figure out, hey, is this pool worth it? Is this pool profitable? Is it not profitable? And if it's not, and it's impacting employee morale or any of that, for just it's not worth, right? There's even a value to that. And what we've seen is, a lot of the ones that we see struggle is a lot of times those that are grinding every day, right? And this is an industry where you start and man, you grind hard, right? But some of the challenges that we see is they're grinding so hard that they're not stopping to lift their head and kind of figure out what it is that's working and not working. So, it's really the key of, the biggest difference is between the average and the successful pool pro that we see is really dialing that part of their business in. And what we've seen is those that do it early in their journey tend to scale a lot faster than those that don't know it, right? And we've talked to pool pros that have had 9 pools and kind of jumped on and figured out, what they need to know from the number side, right? And as they scale, they're a lot more successful.
Yeah,
I want to jump in. I want to jump in real quick on that portion. Sorry, Zach. But how critical it is when you're talking about the grind, right? I love it that you said that. And, and people think, well, the ones that are struggling are the ones that are grinding. It doesn't really make sense when you really put it together and go, how does that work? But I think what we're trying to get at, and so you guys understand, is, it's out there hustling, grinding, working hard, right? Doing what you're doing. We all know you guys are out there busting your ass. But, think of what Edgar's saying, right? It's like grinding every day with no real picture of what's working, or not really having a plan in place, or understanding what your goals are, or where you're going for. We've done multiple podcasts about goals and where you want the direction to go of your company, or what you're striving to achieve, and why you're doing what you're doing. It needs to be for a greater good. I've done the analogy before, and I've told this to my kids 1,000 times. It's like, as businessmen, women, as husbands, wives, as whatever, as just human beings, when we come up with either personal goals, business goals, we set point A to point B. This is where we're at now. This is where we want to go. When you do it, what we're saying is do it open-eyed and like imagine walking in a straight line, right? And you need to go from point A to point B, and then all you got to do is you walk that line. You know where you need to go, one step in front of the other. With your eyes wide open, right? Head up, not just head down, grinding without paying attention to everything. You can get to that goal, or you'll be able to get there. And if there's obstacles, you'll be able to see them, or kind of move around them, or go over them. Now imagine doing that same exercise blindfolded, right? And are you going to be able to walk that straight line to point B? Chances are you're going to wander off, right? Or veer off to the left, or veer off to the right, simply because you're doing it blindfolded. You're just not, you're just throwing shit on the wall and hoping that it sticks, and then running with it. So I think that's kind of where we're getting at. I just want to clarify that point right there. Grinding is great, but it needs to be with the purpose and with the vision, not just hard work only.
That's what we talk about all the time, is like you said, like you get your head down and you're just going and going and going. And we talk about the whole idea of like working on your business, working in your business, not on your business. And that's where you're stuck, working in it. And it's so easy to just get caught up in chasing the next check and got to get the to-do list done. But you're not lifting your head up to actually, especially when talking about knowing your numbers, to kind of see, am I really making money? Are we really profitable as a company? Can we afford the growth? And we've talked about it so many times. It's cash flow. That's kind of our Achilles heel. It's great on one hand, but it can be a real problem on the other hand, because it allows us to continue to grind with our head down for a period of time. And if we don't lift our head up sooner and start really looking at these things, it hides the problem. And then we just get to the point where you start wondering, like, why am I doing this? I mean, I got to that point. Like, we were literally like, if we don't figure this out in the next year or two, like, let's switch gears. And that was kind of the point in my journey where it was like, got to start looking at the finances, started figuring out why, 1 minute there's a bunch of money and the next minute we're, scared to buy a Taco Bell. So, definitely got to look into these numbers, got to start understanding what is really costing you to deliver service.
And even more so, you're putting your head up in between, right? Not waiting until the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year or something like that.
Can't look in the rear view mirror.
You got to reevaluate, right? Because look, we can, just because you got a plan, which is step one, but doesn't mean that if you can see some adjustments that need to be made, right? Or if you need to reevaluate that plan, or maybe you were just flat out wrong and you need to adjust on the fly, right? And create something different. You don't necessarily have to keep digging a hole or keep digging yourself and eventually go, holy shit, well, if I would have seen this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I could have avoided all this, so it's always good to take a breather and
you can
course correct 100%.
That's the big thing about business that people need to understand is you can have a vision, and this happens to everybody. If you go back, forget about pools. If you go back to every person that started in business, they talk about it. They said, we had a vision, we had a plan of where we were going to go, right? But our journey took us somewhere else, right? So those things that we want.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know yet.
Look at Jeff Bezos. What did Jeff Bezos want to do? He wanted to do books for a living, right? And his business completely grew somewhere else and took him, out of that path of what he wanted to do. And I'm not saying that you're going to start servicing pools and all of a sudden have a retail store or, selling groceries or whatever. But what I'm saying is, you have that plan. And like John is saying, and like Zach is saying, you have that plan, but you have to be able to adjust and change based on kind of those business needs. And Zach, you called it the dangerous grind. And that was something that I loved. It's a dangerous grind. It's very dangerous if you just go out the mentality of, I'm going to grind. And if I need to do better, I'm just going to grind harder. Because what I think a lot of people need to understand is, if you are going to get to a point where you're going to scale, where you want to go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 pools, right? At some point, you need to understand that the grind alone is not going to get you there, because you can only grind so much. You can only physically do so much. And so you have to be careful with that grind. You have to be able to take that step back, like John says, and look at the bigger picture and kind of look at the roadmap and change, right? And that might be bringing somebody on and retraining those people and making sure that those people are firing on all cylinders, right? But if you're going to scale and you're going to grow, right, that dangerous grind, you got to be aware of it.
Look, and I look at the grind is hell. I mean, you hear it, and it's undeniable that hard work for the most part beats talent. But what we're trying to get at here is, I look at it like that grind and that hustle and that hard work is like horsepower in your business, right? It's the muscle. It's what
the drive
what really get you there, right? And I think but we have to understand, you can have all the horsepower in the world, but if you ain't gripping the road, bro, you're not going anywhere, but you're just spinning out and smoking those tires. I look at it like the vision and the plan and these things that we talk about, that's the traction, and you need to be able to have both. You got to have that horsepower and you got to be able to plant those tires on that road, right? And you need that traction so that you can be propelled forward. Otherwise, you can be grinding all day long and all week long, and nobody's going to question your hustle, working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, been there, done that, right? And all that is just pure horsepower. And are you really winning the race? Are you really even moving? Or are you just sitting there spinning your wheels and digging a hole? So that's like the best analogy I can possibly think of when it comes down to, the difference between, strategically attacking something and going after something. We're just saying, hey, I'm just going to hit it heads on and just give it everything I got without any thought other than, I'm
David, you're pumping up John's ego here. Like, don't do this to John.
I was going to say mic drop.
Don't do this to John, because now John's going to, he's not going to want to go to work today. We'll be on the podcast for 4 hours.
Yeah, like I'm that full of myself, right? I'm the last person.
The prestigious,
but it's true. That's how.
No,
that's true, right? Are you going to use it, right, Zach?
Yeah.
Are you going to use it? Well, write it down. Remember, because I'm going to forget I said it in a week.
Somebody's going to go, John, you remember that analogy? He's like, no, which one was it? He'll be calling Janie. Janie, what did I say? Did you write it down? So, yeah. And I agree, but one of the biggest things is, the sooner you figure out those numbers, the sooner it's going to put you, on a better path. And we talk about it all the time, right? And even at the recent boot camps that we had, I did have a pool pro that reached out. He was one of those that was going to come, and then he wasn't going to come. And, then he decided to kind of come at the end, and he was like, oh, I have so much work, and I wasn't going to make it, and I wasn't going to be able to do it. And, this work came up, and, I was giving him a little bit of a hard time, and I get along with him. And I was kind of giving him a little bit of a hard time. And I'm like, here's some of the complaints that you have all the time, right? About your business, about doing all that. And this is what I'm talking about. You get into this grind, and you have to be able to step away from that grind for a little bit to show up. And he was like, oh, well, yeah, I really kind of came for the business. That's kind of really what I came for at the boot camp. And so he's having this conversation about, bringing his first employees, and he's in that grind, and he's talking about bringing that first employee. And I'm like, oh, great. So let's talk about it. So what's the natural thing? Well, let's talk about how much you need to pay that person and how much you need to keep in order to be able to bring that person on. And, he tells me, well, I kind of don't know that. I don't know, how much I make. I know I have money in my bank account, and and that, and that's where the real kind of conversation went in, specifically, to knowing your numbers. Cause it's like, you want to bring somebody on, you want to pay them. First of all, you don't know what you want to pay them. Two, you don't know how much money you need to be able to keep, right? Can your business afford to do that? But yet you're in the situation where you just kind of want to bring somebody on, and it gets very dangerous, because if you don't know your numbers and you bring somebody on and the business can't afford to pay it, and now it's going to make your personal wallet be even tighter, and it's going to get you into that stressful situation where, what do I do? Right. And so you have to have eyes on those numbers, and you have to know, specifically what your numbers are, and whether that business can afford that.
Yeah, I mean, and look, we're singing the same song over and over again, talking about, we've been preaching this and talking about this, Edgar. If I hear you say know your numbers one more time, right, I might put
right, and jump off the building, right?
But you've got to. But I mean, this is how it.
And every boot camp and every show, it's like and it's like, here's the same kind of conversation over and over again.
I mean, what are we doing this for? I mean, it's as simple as this. Let's just the question should be this: why are you in business, right? Well, I want to make money. Okay, great. You know what I mean? Well, let's figure out,
let's figure out how much money you're making.
Yeah. Let's figure it out. That should be the number one thing. Yeah. And in turn, as a business owner, right, numbers are important, right? Understanding making a profit, and, working hard for to achieve a result, right? This is elementary stuff, right? But when we look at our employees, it's the same thing too. These guys and gals are working to make money as well, right? And we need to position ourselves in our business so that we're able to provide for them, right? And you have to understand. It really comes down to the basics. Know your numbers. Know your numbers. This is the 832,000 time you've said it. I think
maybe every time I say it, I have to give you guys $1.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
At the end of the year, right?
Yeah, that would be. And then, we're going to start, our webcams are going to start going to like 720p, and then the microphones are going to be like the little, you know what I mean? We're going to start having to sell everything, right? Next, you're going to be out in the backyard.
What happened to Pool Nation? They went out because Edgar just had to keep paying dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I know we're over here. Yeah.
Really quick on here. Eric brings up a huge point right here, and I'm going to put it right up on the screen right here. And that is the best part about going to trade shows, boot camps, or any education is that it separates you physically and hopefully mentally from the grind. 100%. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about, because you have to focus on education, not just for you, but for your employees. And that's what those do. That's what those trade shows do. That's what the boot camps do. And we talk about it all the time. Like, yes, we'll tell you to go to a boot camp, but go to every trade show that you can. There's different classes at every single one of those trade shows that you're going to be able to kind of get something from. The other thing, Rich here, I'm 24 behind, but John, you said you can always improve. I agree. I've heard the biggest room in the world is the room for the improvement. Wow. Sticks with me every day. I like that. I like that. And then the other thing
starts with humbling yourself and checking your ego at the door. And, like us, we're sitting here talking about this, and it's pure experience and just from real world trials and tribulations and us experiencing it, right? I'm not a professor. This is me. I've fallen on my face 100 times, and just talking about the things that we've gone through, right? And each and every day, you know, I learn. If I don't, I tell my kids and I tell my family, if you guys don't learn something every single day, we failed, right? You know, there is so much to learn, and I don't care how good you think you are at something or how easy something comes to you, you can always improve and always do better. And the minute you lose that fire, right, it's a cascading effect in everything that you do in your life, in personal, business, whatever. And it starts with checking your ego at the door and knowing that you don't have all the answers, you don't know everything, including us, and that we're here to learn from each other, you know. And that is like the step. You have to put that guard down in order to be able to say, hey, look.
Yeah.
And yeah, Eric, to tag on to the education,
learning is never ending.
These boot camps, it's being able to say, hey, look, I might be the baddest. And we talked about it on the live and stuff when we were talking about the championships, and we have some of the biggest and baddest pool pros out there that are installing pumps that they've done for 30 years, right? And it's like they can do it blindfolded, you know, but they're there. And what a reality check to them, because it was a different experience, and, you know, they weren't, you know, 100% perfect, you know, or there was room for improvement, and they were able to check their ego at the door and learn some and do stuff. But yeah, look, I know we're already over an hour in. I want to maybe talk about, to kind of recap this one, some of the successful things that we see that pool pros have done from, you know, our own self-experience and from talking to others. And what we've really noticed is, you know, the pool pros that are not just surviving but are thriving, you know, they track this isn't an all-inclusive list, right? But this is definitely some of the things that are vital and important to any business, and you can apply it to whatever you're in. But the ones that are thriving, they are the ones that are tracking their income, they're tracking their profits, their chemical expenses, their fuel usage. They know what their pools cost to service. I cannot tell you how important that is. I think as far as like your numbers, this portion right here, if anything sticks with you, is understand what the cost of your service is, what it takes to walk into a backyard, what your business expending per service stop, you know, based off time, chemical usage, you know, all your expenses and everything, establishing a minimum rate per pool, no matter what the size is, what it is, or whatever it may be, but a minimum that takes into account all your expenses, all your payroll, takes taxes, and then takes most importantly into account how much money you need to make as a business, whatever that percentage is, whatever that profit margin is, whatever that take-home money you want, that all needs to be included in that. That number is like the golden number, and you should have that, you know, embedded in your brain. And it changes. I look at it like, you know how you write down the new year every year, and you got to remember it or whatever, and you kind of go through it every year. That number goes up, and through the podcast, you can go back and you can listen to the very first one where in 5 years we went from $150 minimum all the way now to $275 is our minimum per stop. And that was just what we need in order to survive. That is my magic number.
Again, when we started back then, right, the cost of everything we had was a lot cheaper than it is
was
today.
A lot cheaper, for sure.
And we're still talking about how scary the future is.
So the other things is, so again, profit margin. The pool pros that are and business owners who are thriving in the industry aren't just winging it. And it goes back to what we were talking about. You know, it's not just grind isn't the only thing. It is an important ingredient.
We'll get you so far.
Yeah, it's an important ingredient, but it doesn't make the dish. You know, they know their numbers and they know how to run the business, and they don't treat it as a hobby. They know how much it costs to service each pool. Like we talked about, they've broken down chemical usage per account, average drive time, how much they're paying in labor, what labor and what their labor produces. They track revenue, they monitor their profit margins, and they revisit their numbers very often. Like we were talking about, not wait till the end of the month.
Not in
I
the
mean, it's
rearview
hard
mirror.
enough.
Yep.
Hard enough to get people to. I mean,
Yeah.
once a month is good start, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Let's
Right.
do that, because I
Yeah.
think sometimes people wait until tax season and go, "What the hell?" You know, or and then
That's scary.
they're getting you know, they'll get that instant burst of, oh my God, I got to change this year, and then they start off, you know, for like a week or two doing it right, and they fall back into their same traps, because see no evil, hear no evil. If it's not in front of your
Right.
face and you got a lot of work to do and you're not looking at your numbers, you're going to wait until next April. But start with the end of the month. But preferably, what you need to do is look at this on a weekly basis, or if in a perfect world, have scorecards, daily scorecards that you're looking at, so that you can adjust on the fly in real time, like what Zach was saying. You know, you hear me saying this: do not be reactive. You know, act. You know, take action. Don't be reactive in this business. You know, people that aren't reacting to their business are leading, you know, the proper way.
I think it was Josh that had some saying, and Josh Sandler, I'm probably botching it. It's like, what gets tracked gets done.
Yep.
Is that what it was? And this is the case when it comes to finances. And like, I'm sure there's a ton of people that have this down. They're in it, they're living it, they're doing it. But for those of you that are just kind of getting into it, or maybe have been avoiding it, because I'm not going to lie, like I avoided this in the beginning because it was like I was in the grind and it was scary and intimidating. It doesn't have to be that way. And once I started looking at it as more of like a challenge, and that was because we were at the point where I was like, we're gonna not do this anymore. So I guess I do need to sit down and like kind of take this head on and look at it. It really became more of a challenge. Like, I want to crack this code. I want to figure out what's going on. And so when you're getting started with this, it's not something that you, like John said, like if you just start all of a sudden, I'm going to make this a daily thing and I'm going to go real deep, and you put all these things in place, like you're going to burn out on it. But you don't have to be that intensive out of the gate. You can start small to get some of that clarity. And for me, it was just like getting in the habit of looking at something numbers wise. And then for me, it was, I think I've talked about this before. I love that you have to measure it
100%.
to manage it. And I mean, perfect. I used to print my bank statements, and, you know, in the very beginning, I've talked about it. It was like the card was our money. And, you know, if we stopped at Taco Bell for lunch during the day, whatever. So I used to print my bank statements, and I had all these different color highlighters, and I would go through every expense and I would categorize it into something and just start kind of totaling up, like how much are we spending on gas? How much are we spending on vehicle repairs? You know, things like that. And separating out some of that personal and business. And that is one of the best recommendations I have for anyone. I know people kind of, you know, commingle those things. It's really hard to get a true financial health snapshot or understanding of how your business is doing if you have these things. So for me, as I started going through these bank statements, I was like, okay, no more. Like, we're getting our own accounts for these things, started paying ourselves differently. So it's something that you don't have to be so crazy about in the beginning. You just need to get a routine to start looking at some of these things. Like John said, if it's monthly, make sure it's every month at whatever time that you're starting to look at these things. And as you get more and more into it, I promise you, your mind starts turning. You start figuring out different things. You get a P&L going. You start reviewing that. I love the P&L. You can play with it like 10 different ways and see all these different things that are going on. But to get started, it's just taking the time. And I know at the beginning, it feels like it may be a loss of very valuable time that's going into the grind. But if you take the time, it starts to equate in like lesser costs, more revenue, things like that. It pays for itself tenfold in the long run.
I agree. That's some gold right there. Gentlemen, let's do this. Let's take our final word from our sponsors. When we come back, want to get some final thoughts.
So Did we get through two or
we
half?
got through half
or-
of one. We'll be right back.
The Hyper Pole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We are talking about the 5 habits. I wanted to read Eric's because he came up with a good one. I can't stop thinking about that. But 5 habits of highly successful pool pros in the industry. there's a couple of things that we're going to do on the next podcast, guys. What we'll do is we'll kind of start off that podcast. We'll talk about, give a couple of different bullet points onto why knowing your numbers is so critical for pool pros. In the meantime, let's get some final thoughts. Zach.
So after this episode, I think you owe John and I think $18 each now after that last one you just dropped. Does it cancel out if we say
100%. Well, there'll be things that if you say they cancel themselves out. So if John says, if there's certain sayings that John has and there's certain ones that you have, so they will all offset each other.
Yeah. So, I mean, today, this is really good stuff. And like John said, this is a constant thing that we're hammering on, but it's super important. And kind of going back to the 5 habits, they all individually have their importance, but they all kind of intertwine with each other and work together. And if we get through these 5 habits and you start working on each one and then tying it all together, that's when we see people that are truly like the light bulb has gone off. They're starting to figure it out. They're starting to make those big moves. They're on their way to tackling the next goal. So this is really good stuff. And as always, if there's any questions or anything, like reach out to us in the chat. I mean, this is the stuff that we love to get into and try to figure out. And again, for me, this is the challenge. This is the figuring out of the puzzle. This is the fun stuff. So
Mr. Flawless, with his background, he looks like he's in another country, like a reporter for TV, right? Like with those, the one to their, what would be his right shoulder, it almost looks like a lights from a city. And then over to the other side, the way that the reflection, now you covered it, but at the other side, it looks like the sun with some clouds up there at the top, and it looks like he's some different country reporter.
Yes.
So, final thoughts. Yeah.
John.
Look, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. And I think I talked my final thoughts already right before the break, like I usually do, but trying not to put another dollar in the jar.
The jar.
My brain's like, don't say it. But look, here you go again. Know your numbers, right? This is what we are in business for. This is not a hobby. This is not entertainment. This isn't a charity that we're running. We're running a business, and we're providing a service. And we work very hard doing what we do. And it is critical that that you guys understand, the money that's coming in and the expenses going out, and understanding these numbers. I don't know how else to put it, but I can promise you this, any single poller out there who has not ever tracked their numbers or their financials, or has, looks at a P&L, manages their expenses, you could probably, I bet you a steak dinner that if you really dug deep, you'd be able to realize an additional 5 to 10% in profits over the year.
Which would cover
which
the
was
steak
100%,
dinner.
right? But the profits that you realize, if we get it right, you have to split it, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever you find, you got to share.
There is an unbelievable amount of waste, right? And not just waste in money, but waste in energy that we expend as individuals and human beings, as business owners, as employees, however you want to put it. There is a lot of waste. And I think the time and energy and disappointment is the most frustrating part of it, and I think leads to a lot of the other things that we're going to be talking about, especially when it, as far as like burnout, it contributes to that dramatically. It is like I can't even explain it or put it into words, but the minute you start keeping track of your finances and your numbers, and you start to see real progress that correlates to more money in the bank, right? It is such an uplifting experience where it's so addicting, right? That you get to the point when you see it and you actually see a plan come together, or you can actually realize some more profits for doing the same, work, or having the same workload or same amount of clients or whatever it may be. It's a life-changing moment for any small business, but yet it's like the toughest struggle for us to get there. Because and I know why, most of us that are working, especially as single polars, we like to work, hands-on, we're in the minutia, where we love the grind, that's what we're good at. We've always been good at. We just know that hard work beats talent. We're just running. And the business aspect of it is where we're lacking, but we think that we can overcome it with just hard work. But that story's been told a million times, and we've seen the result of that for many over the years, and we're trying to get you not to get to that point, right? I promise you, pay attention to your numbers, listen to the rest of these podcasts that we're talking about, write them down.
He said pay attention to your numbers, not know your numbers. I see what you're doing.
You like that, right?
You're doing wordplay.
You caught that. Pay attention to your numbers, right? And when you start to see these progresses, it just becomes great, because then now you get to identify two things: identify what's working, and then you can rinse and repeat, and then grow and make it better.
Rinse and repeat.
More importantly, identify where your issues are, right? And then you're able to resolve them, and it will lead you to a very happy place. I said I wasn't going to get into a long final thoughts, and here I go. So I'm just going to cut myself off right now.
So that'll be $1. So
yeah, that'll be $1.
That'll be $1.
Stay tuned.
I do have a 5 here, because I just know that
Stay tuned. We got 4.5 more habits to cover, which will take the rest of 2025, and then 2026 will be.
You'll be ready to go.
Will be dedicated to our what was it that Eric came up with that we're going to run with for the
Filthy
title?
5.
The Filthy 5.
The Filthy 5. I wrote it down, Eric. I wrote it down. That's going to be
the Filthy 5.
We're gonna roll with that one for sure. That's going to be
fun, and it's going to be somewhat. I don't know if it's going to be controversial, but I think it's going to be fun, because I think we're going to really lay it out there and be honest.
Yep. And
it reminds me of that meme, right, that you posted and that we collaborated on about the green pool, right? For those of you that haven't seen it, go check it out. It's that Muppet with the phone, right, where it's like, oh my God. And then what was the tagline when your customer calls you and says that your employee let their pool go green and you don't have an employee?
Anyways. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend. Catch me and John next week on the Pool Nation Instagram Live, where we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? Let me see if you remember. Qualifiers, bro.
Thanks.
Qualifiers. Let's go, baby. Anyway.
Oh, you were on mute. You were on mute. I didn't hear you.
Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry, a pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.